Welcome to today's analysis. So we're unpacking a story today that is just incredibly fascinating, but honestly, it's deeply tragic. You know, our history books love to celebrate guys like Thomas Edison, right? But the true architect of the 21st century, the guy who literally invented tomorrow, he died completely penniless, and he was largely forgotten by the very future he helped build. Today, we're diving into the brilliant mind and the ultimate downfall of Nikola Tesla.
So, think back to the Marvel movies for a second. You remember Black Panther, right? Specifically, think about Wakanda's invisible, totally impenetrable energy shield. Any enemy that tried to cross it without permission was just stopped dead in their tracks. I mean, it seems like the ultimate futuristic sci-fi concept, something we might not see for, another 500 years. What if I told you that this sci-fi concept wasn't actually born in a comic book, but in the mind of a real, living scientist over a century ago?
Yeah, exactly 110 years ago, Nikola Tesla proposed a very real defense mechanism. And his goal? To end conflicts between nations once and for all. He called it Teleforce, though you know how the media is, they quickly dubbed it the Death Ray. Now let's break this down. It wasn't a laser like you'd see in Star Wars. Actually, scratch that. It was conceived as a high-voltage particle accelerator. The whole idea was to fire microscopic tungsten pellets through the air at just incredible speeds. You could operate it safely from your home country and instantly destroy incoming enemy tanks or aircraft. It was a literal invisible wall. His vision was profound but pretty simple. If every single country had this impenetrable defense, global wars would just become completely obsolete.
Okay, let's dive into this roadmap of how a mind that literally saw the future collided with the harsh financial realities of his present. We'll start with the man who invented tomorrow, then look at curiosity versus utility science, the epic War of the Currents, his triumph at Niagara Falls, the secret behind radio waves, and finally, the unfinished Wardenclyffe dream.
All right, Section 1, the man who invented tomorrow. And as we'll see, his brilliance is truly just hidden in plain sight.
If you've ever thought Tesla's ideas were just crazy theories, just take a moment to look around you right now. If you're watching this using Wi-Fi, if there's a ceiling fan spinning above your head, or hey, if you're charging your phone wirelessly on your desk, you are directly benefiting from Nikola Tesla's mind. Remote control vehicles? Yep, that was his demonstration too. He even invented the alternating current induction motor, which is literally the exact same underlying tech used in modern electric cars today. I mean, that is exactly why the company Tesla bears his name. So much of the modern tech we rely on every single day was born right in his head.
Which brings us to Section 2, curiosity versus utility science and the power divide.
So, to really understand the massive structural hurdles Tesla faced, we have to look at how science was actually funded back then. Historically, you can kind of divide science into two distinct eras. First, you've got curiosity-driven science. Think of Galileo, Newton, and of course Tesla. These were minds seeking pure truth, just trying to understand how the universe works at a fundamental level. But during the Industrial Revolution, power shifted heavily. It shifted to wealthy investors and businessmen, and that ushered in the era of utility-driven science. Guys like Thomas Edison, J.P. Morgan, Marconi, they were innovating strictly for profit and market control. The reality was, if an invention couldn't be easily monetized and metered, it really struggled to get funding. And this highly commercialized landscape, that's exactly what Tesla stepped into.
And that clash leads us perfectly into Section 3, the War of the Currents, AC versus DC.
So how did this fierce rivalry actually kick off? Well, Tesla was brilliant, but he was completely broke. He arrived in the US with a letter of recommendation to work for the famous inventor Thomas Edison. At the time, Edison's direct current, or DC, motors had commutators that were constantly sparking. They were highly inefficient. So Edison makes Tesla a deal. He says, redesign my DC generators and I'll give you a massive $50,000 bonus. Tesla went to work. He worked grueling 18-hour days for months and completely transformed Edison's failing machines. But when Tesla asked for his hard-earned reward, Edison just brushed it off as a practical joke. He actually told him, "You don't understand our American humor." Obviously, stung by this massive betrayal, Tesla quit on the spot.
And that single betrayal ignited a massive technological battle. Edison championed direct current, but let's look at why DC was so flawed. You see, DC power couldn't easily change voltages. That meant it had to be generated at the exact same low voltage that people used in their homes. Because of this, it suffered massive power loss over distance due to the resistance in the thick wires. You'd literally need an expensive power plant every 2 miles. Tesla,
out on his own now, proposed alternating current, or AC. AC was highly efficient. It could travel thousands of kilometers from a single power source without any significant power loss. Let's break down this complex electrical engineering concept. We'll use a simple water pipe analogy so it's super easy to grasp. Step by step. Think of step 1. DC power acts like water flowing through a really thick, leaky pipe. It loses pressure incredibly fast over short distances. Now look at step 2. AC power acts like a thin, high-pressure pipe shooting water over vast distances with absolutely zero loss. AC's real superpower is a device called a transformer. It acts kind of like a nozzle, squeezing the electricity to ultra-high pressure, or voltage, to shoot it across the country, and then safely stepping it back down right before it enters your house. It was mathematically and practically superior in every single way. But here's the thing about superior technology. It doesn't just win on its own when huge financial stakes are involved. To protect his massive DC profits, Edison launched an aggressive smear campaign to frame AC as inherently dangerous. I mean, he publicly electrocuted animals, and his lobbying even led to the funding of the first electric chair used for executions. He literally wanted the public to associate Tesla's AC power purely with danger and death. It is a stark, crazy reminder of the intense competitive tactics that come out when you introduce disruptive technology.
Despite all that resistance, undeniable technological superiority eventually wins out. Which brings us to Section 4, Triumph at Niagara Falls.
Tesla's undeniable victory finally came at the 1893 Chicago World Fair. Partnering with the Westinghouse Company, Tesla was given the job of lighting up this massive event. And he used 1 lakh, that's 100,000 AC-powered electric bulbs. Imagine the absolute awe of that 1893 crowd, seeing an entire white city brilliantly illuminated at night for the very first time in human history. When they flipped that switch, they literally turned night into day. The sheer scale and blinding success of that event proved to the whole world that AC wasn't just safe, it was the future.
And that success led to a monumental feat. In 1895, Tesla built the world's very first AC power station at Niagara Falls. Now, this wasn't just a power station. We are talking about the birth of the modern power grid. He successfully harnessed the power of the rushing water and transmitted high-pressure electricity a staggering 35 kilometers away to the city of Buffalo. It proved humanity no longer needed to build dirty, smoggy factories right next to their cities. Power could be harnessed from nature and sent anywhere. Edison's DESI was officially outmatched.
But here is the tragic twist. Building this massive AC infrastructure across the country required enormous upfront capital, and Westinghouse was basically on the verge of bankruptcy. So they came to Tesla and begged him to waive his royalty fee, which was legally contracted at $2.50 per horsepower of AC electricity generated. Just to put that into perspective for you, because of the sheer volume of power being produced globally, that $2.50 per horsepower would be the equivalent of making Tesla one of the wealthiest men on the planet today, easily on par with modern tech billionaires.
So what did Tesla do? In a moment that truly defines his legacy, he looked at those executives and said, "I am not working for money. I am working for the future of human civilization." And he literally tore up his lucrative contract right in front of them. He sacrificed his own immense personal fortune just to ensure that the Westinghouse Company survived and that AC power could reach the entire world affordably. Just incredible.
And this brilliantly illustrates our next point. Section 5. The secret behind radio waves, a stolen legacy. Let me walk you through the timeline of how another one of Tesla's groundbreaking inventions was developed and then later credited to someone else entirely. In 1898, Tesla demonstrated the very first remote-controlled boat. He proved invisible radio waves could carry signals. By 1900, he received the foundational patents for radio technology. However, in 1901, Marconi sent a transatlantic signal using 17 of Tesla's foundational patents. The difference? Marconi had the massive financial backing and sharp business acumen that Tesla just lacked. Marconi lobbied heavily, and in 1904, the U.S. Patent Office actually reversed Tesla's patents. Then, in 1909, Marconi won the Nobel Prize for an invention that was largely built on Tesla's architecture. Talk about a stolen legacy. Now, what's really interesting here is how this pattern of scientific brilliance clashing with financial realities culminated in his most ambitious project. Section 6. The Unfinished Wardenclyffe Dream. With the backing of the incredibly powerful financier J.P. Morgan, Tesla started building the massive Wardenclyffe Tower. His goal was nothing short of revolutionary. He wanted to transmit wireless electricity globally,
and create a worldwide wireless messaging system. He was essentially building the internet over a century early. To understand this step by step, he planned to use the concept of resonant frequency. Think of it kind of like pushing a child on a swing. If you pulse electricity into the ground at the exact right rhythm, it builds up energy globally, using the Earth itself as a massive conductor. He truly believed a single tower could provide power to anyone, anywhere on the entire planet.
But then came the defining hurdle. When JP Morgan realized exactly how this technology worked, he asked one very specific, fatal question. Where do we put the meter? Morgan understood the core economic problem here. If Tesla was pulling energy from the Earth and transmitting it wirelessly through the air, literally anyone could stick an antenna in the ground and tap into it. You cannot easily put a financial meter on thin air.
And because the system couldn't be accurately metered and monetized, it was deemed an unviable investment. The funding was pulled instantly, and JP Morgan withdrew his support. That beautiful Wardenclyffe Tower was abandoned and eventually just scrapped for metal during the World Wars. Nikola Tesla, the man who literally provided the architectural blueprints for our modern era, spent his final years completely alone, living in a small hotel room, feeding pigeons outside his window. The harsh financial realities of the time simply couldn't support an infrastructure designed to give away its product for free.
Which leaves us with a deeply unsettling final thought to take away from today's analysis. Did the strict demand for profitability and financial incentives rob humanity of a future with free, limitless energy? And if a mind as brilliant as Nikola Tesla's could be sidelined simply because his ideas weren't easily monetized, what other technological miracles are we completely missing out on today? Keep that in mind the next time you connect to Wi-Fi or simply turn on a light switch.